I think we're live. You know what, Chance? You and I, we're just going to vamp here for a few seconds in case people get a commercial, because I don't want them to miss the good stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Right in the beginning is the good stuff. I didn't realize that. I forgot the commercial. I do the YouTube, what is it, premium, just because I don't know. I don't like commercials.
You're a big money guy. Okay.
No, not at all.
It's probably over by now. Okay. Everyone, let us know. Let's see who we got. Who we got in chat? I think we got Griffkin here, but he says he's sleeping. So
gotcha.
That can't really count. Andrew, the wizard, is here.
There he is. What's going on?
He's here until he starts back reading Discovery, which don't let me get in the way of that, because I hear that's a pretty interesting read. The manga culture can't wait for Chance Dillon's book to release. The prologue was sick. Holy cow, dude. Look at this. People are
I've been spreading the sample a little bit here and there.
They're chomping at the bit, man. A reader's journey is here. Says,
what's going on, Chris?
Dennis Myers is here.
Dennis, the author.
Philip Chase is. Oh my God, look, everybody's here. Slay is here. And I know Alex is here. Look at this. NA is here. Dennis is here again.
What a crowd.
Kellen, re-nerdified. All right, man. Yeah, we got everybody here. So, Chance, this is what I want to talk about tonight. So many things. Britton's here. Got to say hey to my.
There he is, Britton.
Got to say hey to my booktube nephew. So this is what I love. Let me just start right off, man. This is what I love about your channel, dude. We get double duty on your channel. We get the reader and the writer. And I want to get to the bottom of where all this came from.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So let's start with the reader. Like, did you start at a really young age reading? Like, take me on that journey. Like, when did it hit you? Or is it more recent?
So I'm reading at a young age for me had always been difficult, because whenever a teacher would tell me to read something, I've heard actually Janny Words talk about this, I think with Jake. And not to say that my teachers were poor teachers. I actually think that they were great teachers. I think that I was a poor student. And
that's very self-aware of you.
Right? Yeah. Genuinely. Yeah. And so I was given books to read in school, and I would get by improvising reports and getting like B's or like high C's, and essentially coming up with what's going to happen in the book in my own head. I would like read a line here or there, like, okay, this is where the character's going. Then I would make it all up in my head and just see how close I was to being right.
Wow.
And I would get passing grades somehow, and then I always loved like looking at the Magic Tree House books, the Animorph books.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, and most of this was the covers. And then my mom read me the first two Harry Potter books. And then by the way, that's another one, like a complete omen. I haven't read Harry Potter.
Oh my, are you kidding me?
No, I've broken all of the booktube rules. Harry Potter, the rest, I've passed book 2 of Game of Thrones. Well,
you've completely gone rogue, man. You've gone rogue. You haven't read Game of Thrones either?
Well, actually, I read the first Game of Thrones I listened to it on Audible before I actually started like physically reading a lot more. I listened to a lot of nonfiction after I dropped out of college. But before that, I had finished one book, and it was my senior year of high school, because my creative writing teacher had us sit down for 30 minutes at the beginning of class and read. And I was like, okay, I'm in it. Like, I'll read.
Sure.
And it was like a basketball book or something, like a book about basketball. And then I was about to have a hip surgery. This is, I think, 3.5 years. No, this is actually 2.5 years ago now. I think sometime before this, I was really getting into Dungeons and Dragons, like this 6 months prior to my surgery, and I was like reading up on characters and structure and all this stuff, and I started building a world on my own. This ties into reading, I promise. And I was just like, okay, like I really love this stuff. I love like working on it and writing on it. I need to read this. Like, I don't know why I haven't read this.
Right.
Fantasy and sci-fi for me growing up were like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. I would wake up before anybody was awake in my house with my toy sword and watch the DVD, like Lord of the Rings movies, and just sit there 50 times. It doesn't matter.
At this point, like, how old are you at this point when you're feeling like, oh, I should read this?
27.
Oh my gosh,
27.
So this is real late. Samwise wants to say that you're awesome, by the way, and that you have some amazing stuff in this book coming out. I guess.
Yeah. Sam's great.
So, and this is Philip Chase says this is why he created a fantasy novels course for people that
Yeah,
Never
no,
liked what the teacher assigned. So,
yeah.
okay, so you were like 27
Hmm.
and you're going into structure, character, how it all goes together, how it's put together.
Yeah.
And you start as a young person just filling in the blanks because you didn't want to read what the writer was giving you.
Yes.
And at this point, 27, you're thinking, you know what, I should read I should see what's happening here.
Yeah, yeah. I had delved into fiction with the Terminal List series. I think 24, 24 years old. So
Yeah.
I had some fiction behind me, and that was the same time around I read Game of Thrones, and that series Terminal List really got me invested more in fiction. It was like a bridge for me to see it. Not that Game of Thrones wasn't. It was just that, again, that was an audible experience, but I actually physically read Terminal List. And then I picked up my first fantasy novel set purchase was Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, because Mike
Oh,
over
wow.
at Mike's Book Reviews, he like, I was like looking what's like really good fantasy to read, and then that inspired George R. R. Martin. So I was like, okay, if it inspired George R. R. Martin, I think I need to read it. You know what I
I
mean?
gotta be in.
Not
Yeah.
that I had read all of A Song of Ice and Fire,
Yeah.
but and then so I dove into it, and I think it was good that my experience was that, because it was slower, and then I got into Joe Abercrombie, so I got slow and then I got fast.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was the really beginning of my reading journey. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy late, dude.
So late. Yeah.
But that is awesome.
Yeah.
Not only have you come to that now, but like now you're on the other side. So okay. So I was watching some of your best ofs this year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this is like kind of one of the first full years you've had of reading, like not the first, but like one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Really second full year of like consistently reading more than a single book a month. Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
So what made you, let me go back in time a little bit again here. What made you want to start writing? If you came to reading that, you were in a creative writing class, so something even earlier on hit you that made you go, I want to tell stories.
Yeah. So when I was very young, I would write, and again, I was very much cinema, like fantasy. And I remember writing a story in like 4th or 5th grade, and it got funny. I just had my stuff to an editor, and it gets marked up, and it sort of brings up those feelings again. You're like, come on. But you're like, okay, this person knows what they're doing. You know what I mean? Like,
you're seeing the red pin. You're seeing the red pin.
Which is good, though, which is good. It's like, this is an objectively smart person, and they know what they're doing. And I'm going through, I'm deleting all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, this person's right. Absolutely. But back then, as a kid, I didn't have the wherewithal, the awareness to agree with the teacher, because all they were focused on was the function of writing for me, and I was focused on, well, what about the dragons? What about the knight with the sword? Like, how cool is that? Huh? Can we talk about that? And so that was for me very unmotivating. And again, bad student at the time. I've grown, I think, to be pretty coachable, but back then, no, I was definitely a little pain in the butt. And so fast forward, Dungeons and Dragons. I was in the military, and Dungeons and Dragons I was like so drawn to it, and I mean, we played together, so it
was awesome,
so much fun.
Yeah,
and I had somebody in my squadron who was it was Jets, by the way, and he was very, very into it. He was a DM. He's the only one there, and so I wanted to get a bunch of people together, and he was nice enough to get us together in the barracks, in the conjoined, I forgot what it's called, sharing space. They have like a poker table in there or whatever. We sat around the poker table, played Dungeons and Dragons for the first time, and I was obsessed. I was in love. Right. And that medium of storytelling for me opened up so many doors. And he's like, hey, why don't you write like a background character story for your character, and then we'll make it like a character introduction. I was obsessed with this. I was like, performance art. Like, I want to.
Okay, so how many years back was this? Like, how long were you in the military?
I was in from 2020 to 2020 till this past May.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
and what branch?
Navy.
Oh,
Navy.
Cool. So this DM just wanted you to write a backstory.
He was like, hey, write a backstory. Yeah. And I fell into that and was completely obsessed. And then it turned into me. He's like, hey, you should DM. And I was like, okay, I'll DM. I got 2 groups of 8 people, so 16 total people, a co-DM. And what I did was I ran 2 groups against each. Like, the whole goal was that they were going to eventually we didn't get to. They went on deployment after I had my hip surgery, but we were going to get them to come together. And verse each other in some way. I was going to
Sure,
mix
yeah.
it up for before. And I had created this whole world to do that, including races, characters, all this stuff that is now turned into what my story has become. And the backstory of my first ever
so
character.
the story, the book now you're coming out with is the campaign that you came up with in the Navy where you were pitting these two groups against each other.
Kind of, yes and no.
That was a springboard,
it's evolved.
at least.
Yes,
Okay.
It was exactly. Yeah. It was the springboard, of course, because at the time, like these characters who are playing at my table are running the story, and I'm just essentially guiding them through the world and giving them conflict. Whereas where all the conflict comes from within, which was with my writing, the characters kind of come up and then they evolve, they change. The story kind of tells itself through their eyes, and I've been very fortunate that it keeps being told. And yeah, my very first backstory character that I ever created is one of the main characters in the book, and that was with just my D&D game that I had played.
So the backstory you wrote for your character when the DM put you on this, that's one of the main characters in your book.
Yeah. It's funny enough, it's actually evolved into what is the before of my book. Yeah, for the most part.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's more and more people here. N.A. Schumer saying, hi. Yeah, N.A. Schumer saying the first 40 pages. Let me see if I can find. Yeah, can also confirm first 40 pages are pretty awesome.
Oh, thank you. It's incredible.
And Christopher Navo's here, and Dennis.
Yes.
What rate in the Navy?
I became undesignated. That's what I was. I was undesignated. I was a line rat. I was working with. I was in aviation, working on F-18s.
That sounds cool. Working on F-18s. Zach is.
Yeah.
Tamara is here. Hey, everybody. Okay, so here's my next question: are you still in contact with this DM? Because this guy freaking changed your life, dude.
Yeah. I actually should reach out to him because I talked to him about this before I left the Navy. I really wanted to work on. I actually developed a whole system for my game that I really wanted to come out with and explore more on, and a whole character sheet, like new rules. And he's that very analytical, objective brain, and mine's just all over the place. So he would tie it all together. So this is somebody who I'd like to collaborate in the future on some projects potentially. Yeah, we'll see. I'm definitely gonna reach out to him either way. You know what I mean? He's a good guy. Yeah.
It's interesting. A lot of people I've talked to writers here and there, and it's it seems to always be, a teacher set me on this path, or something like that. But it's awesome that this is a DM that you met.
Yeah.
How cool is that, dude? What a great origin story for you.
Very fortunate.
So,
yeah.
Let me shift gears a little bit, man. What made you, and congrats on hitting 1,000 subscribers.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, thank you. It's mostly, but you're the catalyst for the talking story.
That's not it at all. No, that's not it at all.
Branches.
I mean, you throw yourself out there and you're doing great, man. I mean, you so quick to get to 1,000. That's a really great achievement. I want to congratulate you. It's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So what was it that brought you to book? You got into reading. It's you know what? I just need my voice out there. What was that like?
Yeah. So I remember I had been watching BookTube just to get, I was let me just see what people are reading in fantasy and sci-fi. And I was very interested in what people were reading in general to guide my reading and also guide my writing. Because I was Stephen King, if you want to be a writer, you have to be a voracious reader as well.
Sure. And that's what he says.
I took that advice to the head, and, I went for it. But also my interest is fantasy. So I was let me see where we get to. And it put me down this rabbit hole where I found you and Jakob. And when I found you guys, this is particularly touching to me because it's a father-son dynamic. And I lost my father when I was 19. So
I'm sorry, man.
Yeah. And and when I turned you guys on, and I connected, I can't tell you exactly what video it was, but I connected the fact that you guys were just talking to each other and going back and forth. It's something that, not to get too emotional, but it's something that as a 19-year-old kid becoming an adult, you kind of miss. You don't get that with your father when he passes at that age. And so tuning into you guys, it really was kind of a fulfillment of that. And and then of course, your motivation of saying, pick up a phone and record. And I'm very much that
Yeah.
person of just like, you know what, screw it, I'm just going to pick it up and go for it. And then, yeah, I definitely wanted to talk about my story with people, and then also the stories that affect me and impact me. And
Right.
hearing you orate and speak about books as passionately as you did. And then obviously, of course, I was reading Malazan and hearing Philip talk about it as well. And that book in particular. And as I was getting into that series, it was just, there was so much that went into me picking up my phone and starting to hit record. You were definitely one of the primary reasons why I decided to do that.
Well, if we had anything to do with you getting out there, that just makes us feel amazing. But so Janny Wirtz, the legend here, is congratulating you on 1,000 subs.
I'm going to be participating in my own version of January. I'm going to be reading To Ride Hell's Chasm. It's probably middle of the month. Yeah, that's my goal.
Dude, I have not put my top 10 list out yet for the year.
Ooh, I'm excited.
I wait until January because I don't feel like that's fair. I'm still wrapping up a couple books. Even these last couple of days. So I just don't feel like it's fair. But really, I think maybe January 2nd or something, I'll get my list out, right? As soon as the clock ticks over. And
perfect.
I'm gonna tell you, man, there's no way that I can imagine Hell's Chasm is not going to be on that list.
Ooh, okay. I'm very excited. Everything I've heard about it, and also the knowledge of horses in general and all that, I'm very interested in getting into.
Oh, if you're, oh my God, she's a search and rescue on horseback. She's sat a horse for many, many years. She knows exactly what she's talking about. It's cool. It is one of the best things there's so many great things about that book, but that is one of the true amazing things about that book. So more congrats on 1,000 from Zach and from Tamara.
Wow.
So okay. You did your top list already.
Yeah, and
for the year.
Based on what you just said, I in today's video, I recorded it last night, which is why you commented. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, you scared me there, man.
I was like, I really should have changed that. I had finished Assassin's Quest over the past I think Sunday or Monday, and I was like, man, this would really take. I had her in my top 10 in general, and then I think that would have bumped her up, bumped the book up. But then also, I watched Philip's video today, and he talks about not ranking. I'm like, yeah, that makes total sense. I actually don't think I should rank anymore, because there are times where I could pick up one of those books, and it would completely. I could make an argument as to why it should be number one. You're
going to convert me right here, right now, Chance, because I have been beating myself up. How to rank these. And I mean, honestly, if I really thought about it, and there would have to be some honorable mentions too of books that really affected me. If I were just to make Philip, and I watched Philip's list. I try to watch most things Philip puts out, and these are the ones that stuck with me. These are the ones that affected me. These are the ones that I may be a little different after reading this for one reason or another. I might see the world differently or feel differently. And he didn't rank them. He just laid out that list. And it's man, that seems like the way to do it, right?
It's perfect. Yeah, it makes total sense. It makes.
total sense. I know the BookTube loves their rankings, though. Everyone loves their rankings, but I don't know, man. I'm feeling the conversion coming. coming.
Philip put the boulder at the top of the hill, and he pushed it. He started rolling it down, and I kind of think it's the right, and not right, or wrong, but it's a good way to go for sure.
It's such a good way to go. Such a good way to go. Okay, so let me hit you up, because I think your list and my list has some of the same things on it, because I did Farseer this year too.
And thanks to you, I did Farseer.
Yeah. So
I'm so glad you drew me in to read it.
Does that just those three books for my year is I did not plan on reading one a month for 3 months. I didn't plan on doing the whole trilogy this year. And then I got to meet her when I went to Dragonsteel. It just seemed like
that's so cool. Yeah.
Our buddy Alex knows what we're talking about.
Yeah. Oh my
But
gosh.
talk to me about that journey through those 3 books. What was that like for you? Like what coming into reading late, coming into going through that character journey where you are as a young man as well, and reading that journey as a young man finds his own footing in the world and who he is in his own skin, as you're trying to start your artist journey. Like, tell me what that was like reading that at this time.
Yeah, man, it was also like the character voice in and of itself, like the him speaking to himself, and then seeing the world around him, seeing these adults being in his situation. He unwanted at the age of 6. You know, he knows he's unwanted by this family, and then he gets put into another family. He's unwanted by this family. You know, that whole thing of him coming into himself, I guess we didn't really see until the 3rd book, right?
Yeah,
I felt
a little bit in the second. I mean,
a little.
I think when you have that first love, like you're getting yourself, you're feeling yourself a little bit. You're knowing who you are, what you want a little bit. So we had that a little bit of the second book.
Yeah, that was another part of it too, is love and love lost, and that aspect of Fitz's journey, and kind of that's another part of my writing also, my writing journey, and getting hip surgery, being in a place of immense loneliness, and then coming and sitting down in my chair and writing. I think Fitz experiences that in a lot of different ways.
Sure.
And yeah, and maybe he's not necessarily actually alone at the time that he's in that experience, but I think seeing his journey and what he's going through, it just really hit. I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to spoil anything. I don't want to.
No, but I mean, thinking about, I think you nailed it right there so well. The loss of this character, like you say, he loses his family in the very beginning. We had that trope of the bastard being dropped off, and that's not a spoiler. I think that's on the back of the first back flap of the first book. But then as he goes forward, just that theme of loss, as he loses his innocence, he goes into jobs and things that he probably would have never seen himself doing, right? Loses himself to quite an extent. Sir, I just really love this. Like, I didn't lose a father as you did, but it's like my family broke up when I was very young, and it's like I was always trying to replace that father figure, right? Like teachers or coaches or this or that, you know, always looking for that kind of thing. So his journey to do that, like, really spoke to me, like these father figures that he kept rotating through, right? You know, that really spoke to me. It was, it's amazing to me how much it spoke to me in my own personal journey as being a young man growing up. And it was so well portrayed by Robin Hobb. Like, I would have, if you'd have never told me, I would have guessed that was a male author, because she completely nailed it.
Anyway, I feel like it's hard to nail male emotion too sometimes, just because of the way that it can often be portrayed. But that was perfect. It was a perfect, like, inner dialogue of everything that I think. Yeah, I think you summed it up significantly. That was, and then again, I'm like trying to teeter on not getting into spoilers.
Sure.
It's, you know, losing something that maybe you never had in that situation. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, it's just like it was very, very impactful. If I did a top 10 and I was able to give more than one book by another, that was my rules. I can't have more than one book by the same author.
Yeah, I'm going to try and do the same thing. Yeah,
I would have. All 3 of those books would have been in my top 10, like next to Malazan and Sun Eater and Of Worn Ruins in there somewhere. You know, but it's just highly, highly impactful. His change from who he was in the first book to who he became in the 3rd book, and the acceptance of a part of his role, and then his pushing away of another part of his role. Let
me ask you about this. I go back a little bit. You brought this up. Like, love lost, and you're finding that chair as a writer, and you're channeling that, right? I mean, you, as an artist, don't be afraid to, like, dredge all that up and try and get that on the page, because that's going to speak to someone else, right?
Yes.
So how the final book ends up, and that journey of artistic expression, having to pull all these things out of you to make that creation that you're working on take flight and live. Like, did that speak to you the way it did me? Because that spoke to me so personally as well, right?
Yeah.
Like,
you're an expert. You're an expert. That was amazing. If anyone's read the series, they know what you're talking about. That's incredible. I think exactly, taking pieces of yourself and finding the truth,
Right.
whatever that truth is. I
Right.
think a lot
At that moment, like tell me how important that is for you, Chance. Like you've got this book you're working on. And I just loved how you said, when I sit down, I was at that point and I tried to, how important is that in your work? Because like you say, you didn't start early. You didn't go a classical way and go to go to studies and everything. You had a creative writing class, I know, but it's like you're coming to this way more blue collar. It sounds like just way more.
Yeah. So it's actually
I'm throwing myself in and gonna do it.
Yeah, it's a really good way. That's how it's funny. It's how I've been with a lot of things in my life. A lot of self-research, finding the right places, finding the right books to read, the right instruction to take, and then, navigating what works, what doesn't work. Discovery. I'm definitely a discovery writer. I definitely like to get into the head of the person I'm working on and then figure out where their story goes. A lot of the times it's places I don't want it to, but at the end of the day, I owe it to this character's journey. This is the truth, right? Now I can lie to myself and say that it's not, and then change it, but then it doesn't feel authentic. And then I get to the next chapter and I'm working on that chapter. I'm like, I got to go back. I got to change that. You know what I mean?
I do. Yeah. And what happens when the character does something you don't freaking want him to do?
Oh gosh, it happened. I think it happens
way
so
more
much.
than people think.
Yeah. And that discovery and finding the truth, finding the authentic version of this character story and whatever piece of myself that I decided to put into that creation, it's a challenge, but it's very fulfilling. It's very rewarding. And then seeing it, like right now, I'm not at the finish line, but you get to the finish line, how many ever times you get there, and you keep running the same race, until it's good, until it's, pretty enough.
Right.
So I have found that there are things that I included of myself that just don't belong there. And then it's like, let me just take that out. That's not the truth. That maybe just doesn't belong. Let's just pull that out, maybe put it somewhere else. It's not that maybe it won't be shared. You got to explore it another way. But yeah, have you found that with yourself and in your work? Are you much more discovery? Did you guys plan a lot? Like how did it work?
We had to, what? It's weird. It's we had to plan quite a bit, and
okay.
This, Janie says Stephen King has it right. Spending time 50-50 reading versus writing, you can learn so much. Too many writers cut back on reading, and blue collar equal self-taught. Tamara, I mean, I might misspeak by saying blue collar, and I say that because the reason I say that is because my own artist journey that I went on, that's what everyone called me. It's like they would all call, because I didn't go to conservatory or all these things. And it's like, I would be in these projects and everybody in the cast around me would be talking about where they went to get their MFA or what conservatory they went to. And I was a lunch pail guy. I showed up on time. I basically did this because I said I was going to do it. You know what I mean? And that was what I was always called. So if I misspoke in any way, I do apologize. I didn't mean anything like that. I was just kind of pulling from my own background. But so your journey,
your discovery. Your journey. No, your journey.
Oh, I'm trying to keep it on you, man. You caught me. I was trying to lot. You gave me a lot. I was trying to hit it back.
You said planning. You said
we did have a lot of planning.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those things where to get it to end up where it needs to go, like certain dominoes have to fall. And to make that happen, like certain people have to do certain things to push those dominoes over and get them there.
Okay.
What we found out is the people that would knock those dominoes over weren't who we thought they were, or were vastly different than we thought they were, or were surrounded by people that we did not see coming. It's really interesting. And it's really interesting. I want to go back to what you said, that you run the race over and over and over again until it kind of gets pretty enough. And I think Janie or any writer would probably say, like, these projects are abandoned, right? They're never finished. It's almost like you don't cross the finish line. You could tinker with it forever. If we feel that way anyway, but, so so in that planning, we found from draft to draft, it's like, oh, this character is the heart of the book. It's going to carry the through. And then we start working on the next draft, and it's like, no, it's this over here. And it's like, it's so different now than where we started.
Yeah.
But as far as planning goes, those dominoes do fall still to get us to the end where we need to be.
Right.
But it's just the people and the through lines and the threads are very, very different because characters popped up and demanded that we pay attention to them and demanded that we portray them the way that they were telling us to portray them.
Yes.
So does that happen with you? I mean, did you find the same thing?
Yeah. I definitely, my plan was very loose. It was, I have a start, I have where I want it to go. And I'm going to just word vomit until I figure out, how we get there.
Yeah.
And then sometimes obviously you need to get into the head of another character to turn the subplots of the world and figure out how that all converges at the end.
Right.
But yeah, I think making it pretty enough. I was very intentional with those words, right?
Yeah.
It has to be, it's like you said, you can run through it over and over again, and there are some things that work, some things that don't. And I think that's part of the experience, part of the process. I'm jealous of people who can plan, because for me, my brain, if I were to sit down and just plot out all my entire book, like your experience now, in my head, I would have planned, and then I would have done the same. I would have ended up doing the same thing, because that's just because my brain works that way,
Yeah.
I tried the Brian Lee Durfee method for a little bit, where
I don't know
he
this
said,
method.
yeah. So when I started drafting my second book, I was doing, I only did this for the first probably 10 chapters, where I would write chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, what perspective it's in, and then this is what I want to happen in this chapter. I did that.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it kicked off the book, and then it got to a point where it still didn't work.
Yeah.
I tried to lean into the planning a little bit.
Were you just feeling a little constricted that way? Like,
not even. It was just, it got, when I'm in especially my ugly first draft, which is, I think, a Brene Brown reference. It was it was a very much just word vomit. It was just, throwing it out there and
well, look, Janny's just saying it. Ted, look, this is funny because it's exactly tying into what you're saying. Ted said, each time I sit down to write, I stare at a blank page in despair. And then Janny, come on, knows what she's talking about. Ted, you can't create and destroy at the same time. Just write, you edit, get that ugly first draft out, right? Like you just
ugly. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's nothing even familiar. And I got to thank somebody, Andrew Sam, 70% in. It's fantastic.
I cannot wait to
get sending me edits every night. And let me tell you something. We sat down and reworked the end of a chapter today because of insights that the wizard's giving us. And he's finding so many things. This is missing a word. Have you thought about this? It's like, oh my gosh, it's absolute gold. I was just hoping that he would like it enough to give us a little blurb or something. And he's he's such an amazing person to help us out in that way. So I just absolutely want to thank him. While I'm staring at a comment and thinking about it.
Yeah. I can't. I'm so jealous that I'm not jealous. I'm glad that he has access to it, so we can kind of get we're all of us Talking Story fans are getting an idea of kind of what's going on, behind the scenes. We're getting just small pieces here and there, and it's
everything's coming together. Everyone's going to get it pretty quick. Everybody will get it quickly. You guys will get it first for reviews and stuff real quickly.
So excited.
But we're just a very, very limited thing to get maybe a little blurbage or a little this or that for release stuff.
Totally.
So, and Andrew's just so far gone above and beyond. It's just, I had to take a time out and thank him there. And Janny as well. Absolutely.
Of course.
She's the best. So when you're writing, when you're working, tell me again, because I interrupted you to go over.
No, you're fine.
You're not exactly constricted, but you were saying it was something else when you were trying to do the Durfee method.
Yeah, it was. It's just I ended up working on it anyways, and I think the first 5 to 10 chapters doing that for me, what was effective. It was beyond getting past that point. It that 10 chapter plan that I had Some of the stuff from chapter 10 ended up in chapter 6. You know what I mean? So it just, I would go back and delete. So I think to kick off a book for me in the future, I might try it with the third book in the series. We'll see what I go with, because I think a lot of figuring out processes, again, trying and failing, and then going back and seeing what works. And I would actually, referring to what Janie was talking about, I associate that with The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. That was a book for me that was life-changing. I think anybody that struggles with artistic expression, if in terms of, like if they sit in front of a page and they're having a hard time putting anything down on paper, I highly recommend that book to everybody. That's like my top one book in terms of facing resistance and kind of putting tools in the toolbox to tackle resistance. You know what I mean?
It's like, I mean, they're not joking, right? When the hardest thing is finding the chair, man. Like, yes, it's tough.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Especially I find when drafting, I have a really hard time. Really hard time. I think, yeah, it's hard for me to sit down and get in. But once I'm in it, I'm in it. You know what I mean? And going through this editing process, I'm finding it's very easy for me to sit down, because it's like, it's work. I can do that. Like, I can work, you know what I mean?
And you know how to do that.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. The sitting down, the creative aspect part of it, I definitely face a ton of resistance when I'm drafting, more so than anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So the editing is where you're at now, right? I heard your video earlier today. You're in the editing process on book 1. Yes. And your editor is this DJ Butler that's done the Witchy Eye?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
So I hear from Christopher Rocchio that his work is genius. Like, he's telling, I have to read Witchy Eye. I have to read this series. And this is the guy that's editing for you.
Yes, I'm regretful that I haven't gotten to Witchy Eye before. I told him, I was like, hey, man, I'm going to read Witchy Eye, I swear. And then, something like Robin Hobb comes into the TBR. And
right? We'll get to the never-ending TBR in a second.
I have to get to it.
But what's that like, working with him as an editor?
Yeah.
Like, how's it been, man?
Yeah, he gave me I have a free reign to ask him questions, and he gave me the manuscript back, I think, a week and a half ago. And I got a 4 to 5 page master's thesis on how to properly write my book. It was insane.
Oh, wow.
And I was looking at this 4 to 5 pages, and I'm like, wow, I cannot believe that I didn't see these things when I was working on this project. And there was complete reworking of an opening scene. And he's identified things that I do too much of, things that I don't do enough of. And for me, I'm going to use the word tangible, because I can look at it, and again, it's work, it's objective. I can see what I need to do better.
Right.
And he has nailed it down almost to a science. And I'm on pace to get the words cut that he has said exactly that I'm going to get cut. A part of that is like 10% of that is me just wanting to, a slight bit of a perfectionist. But he said at least 60,000 words need to be cut. And I'm like, yeah, because I do this too much. And if I get rid of those things, then that's going to eventually, you cut words. You're like, if I cut X amount of words per chapter, I'm going to get to that point. And he is so tuned in to what the story is and the narrative is and what I need to be presenting.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, we're in the first round right now. I send it back. My goal was to send it back by the 1st. I told him the 17th. So if he ends up watching this, my personal goal was the 1st, but I told him the 17th. I'm like,
you fudged it. You fudged it a little bit.
Fudged it a little bit. I was like, let me set the expectations really low. And then, because he did it so exceptionally fast, it took him like 5 or 6 days to get through the manuscript, which is crazy to me. Yeah. And he gave a really detailed, essentially synopsis of what I need to fix. And it was very, very, very helpful, because I was so confident sending that off. I was like, oh, he's not going to mark this up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You felt like,
no. Not that but not
you had to know he was marking that up.
No. Yeah. I knew he was going to mark it up. But,
yeah. And I want to throw this out there, because you were mentioning a couple books that helped you. And these were a couple books Janie had us get into, and it made so much difference to everything we were doing.
Okay. Wow.
So Dwight V. Swain's Techniques of the Selling Writer and for Story by Robert McKee. Both of these books basically like turbocharged what we were doing.
Okay.
like you narrow it down to what's the objective? What are you trying to do? This is how you drive it. This is how you keep it going, you know?
Yeah.
And it just keeps you honest. It keeps you just always driving, always moving. And she, oh my God, completely just like tuned up the engine and opened it up and put a supercharger in it with those couple books. And I absolutely echo, those are amazing books.
Okay.
So I wanted to throw those out there for anyone that hadn't picked them up yet.
I'm going to have to come back and watch the replay to get to this point. And what time are we at?
And write 40. Them down.
No, seriously.
8:40. Yeah. 40 minutes in. Right at 40 minutes in.
Perfect. Yeah. I'm going to have to come back.
How did that time out so well?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
You got this amazing editor.
Yes. Very fortunate.
Yeah. Very, very lucky. Of the books you read on your favorites list, I'm going to try and pull a little bit out of you here, Chance, about what we can expect. Okay.
Yeah.
On your favorites list, Sun Eater, Robin Hobb, War and Ruin.
Yeah.
What are you saying? What's most like your effort that you're kind of moving toward? How would you describe it? What's an elevator pitch? What can you give us a little bit here?
Yeah, I mean, my brain's completely blanking on my regular elevator pitch. I have it typed out, I swear. I'll say this. I fell in love with Tad Williams' writing, his style. His presentation of narrative and story was something I completely fell in love with. I fell in love with Joe Abercrombie's characters. And then I fell in love with Steven Eriksson's world and his attachment to the theme of his stories. And then Elden Ring, like the world of Elden Ring that you dabbled, dipped your toes into.
I'm never going back, Chance. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Yeah, I'll say this: the way that presents narrative and the way Malazan presents narrative had a big influence on me. I don't quite nail it the way that they do, simply because it's so unique what they're able to do with their structure. And what I decided to create was a world that is dark, characters that I think are very human. And the objective was there's kind of two objective themes. Suffering is a primary theme. And then there's a second theme. There's a second theme because I think obviously this is so cliche. It's the human experience, I think if we're not suffering outwardly, we're suffering inwardly. We're always beating ourselves up for one thing or another. It's always going to happen. It's innate. And then there's a secondary theme that I've been teetering on saying what it is because I want people to kind of experience the story in a certain It's perseverance through suffering. You know what I mean? I think that's and also it's noting that not everybody is capable of. I think everybody is capable of it, but also not everybody actually ends up doing that. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
I think that's just a reality. You don't have everybody that perfectly perseveres through suffering, and then sometimes you persevere for something, sometimes you don't. I think that those two aspects are things that I wanted to really hone in on when I was working on this project. Yeah, I try not to be heavy-handed. I try to yeah.
So I would say, man, I love Tad Williams' prose. Now I haven't read, Memory
Sarthorn.
The biggie, Memory Sarthorn. I haven't read. I've read Otherland. I read his Bobby Dollar series. So I do really appreciate his prose. And I tell you what, I love Abercrombie's dialogue.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, the dialogue in this and the genius stroke to not only include the dialogue, but sometimes include the inner monologue of a character and how that is different from what they're actually saying. Right. Because there are so many times is the joke, I think sometimes is the seed of comedy is you're thinking one thing, but you're saying another. And there's the joke. And he actually gives you both parts of that in the written word. So you get the performance joke, even though it's the written word. Never quite seen it done like that before. It's really amazing that he does that. So you try and pull those things. And what was the third, the themes of Eriksson? I haven't read Eriksson yet.
You are if you said that about Joe Abercrombie's dialogue, you're gonna love Steven Eriksson's dialogue as well. They're very different, but there's some similarities.
Yeah. So how far are you into Malazan? You're not. Are you done?
I'm currently on this puppy right here, Bone Hunters, in the book 6, and I'm doing the Ian C. Esselmont books. Like I'm doing publication order because AP Canavan said to do that. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna listen to AP. He knows what he's talking about.
Oh my gosh! So you're pretty far in. You're pretty far in.
Book 6, and it's been a slow journey. And a lot of it was, again, me just being a bad student and reading these books and just like, da, 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 you know what I mean? Just like following along. And then something at the end of book 2, I'm not going to say what it is, absolutely struck a chord with me. And I like understood. Book 1, it was a good ride. It was fun. It was a lot of action.
Yeah.
You're seeing this like Steven Erikson style and how he's plugging together a narrative. And then the second book, I had no idea what was going on for the first 60% of that book. And then
what?
Yeah, I know, trust me. And this is just my experience with it. And all I knew was that I trusted him, and I don't know why, but I did. And I got to that point where something happens, and I'm like, holy Hannah, this is perfection.
Did you have to go back, or like it just drew everything? It just made sense.
It was like, for me, it was a sudden moment of, oh my gosh, wow. And I'm probably saying this, and you're thinking convergence, which I think is a big theme that he also plays with. This isn't necessarily that. It is the visceral emotion that I had to go back and read a scene. There's some books I could pick up. Dead House Gates is one. I think Last Argument of Kings is another, where I can just go to the page of a scene that emotionally hit me, and it's like you're watching a movie, and it's like a sad scene, and like Lord of the Rings. Like I almost tear up every time I watch it. I can get that same effect with those books. And
really,
yeah, oh yeah,
like certain parts will hit you every time.
Exactly, every time. Yeah. Did you read Last Argument of Kings? Right. You're through.
I am up to the heroes. So
right? Okay.
I read Best Served. I've read the first trilogy and Best Served Cold.
Okay. There's a character death in Last Argument of Kings towards the end of a character. For the first 2.5 books, I was like, all right, like this is a person, they exist. And then it happened, and I can go back and read that. So I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
I think I do.
Okay. And I don't want to say too much because there's not much I can say about this person. Yeah. And that scene, I can go back and read it. And I read it to my girlfriend in California, which came to visit me for the first time. We were like drinking wine. I was like, I have to read you this scene, like totally, totally perfect. I was like, you have to understand. It's like the first time we're hanging out. I'm like, you have to read, you have to understand. I opened the book up and I read it.
This is a test. I'm going to see if you get this, baby. It's a test. Exactly. Everything rides on this right here. Not too much importance, but everything rides on this right here.
Yeah, so funny. I read it, and I couldn't finish reading it out loud. It really just affected me.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question about, because here's this kind of a hill that I kind of die on sometimes, and people really come back at me like I'm crazy. Like so many people will say of the First Law universe, and I haven't finished it. Like I said, I read the first trilogy and the first standalone. It's like, oh, these are not good people. Like, I just don't know. Like, they're just not good people, and I'm not sure why I root for them, or not sure. It's like, I totally disagree. I find these the characters in the first trilogy, I find entirely heroic.
Yes.
What they have to do to overcome the world and what's put in front of them.
Yeah.
Is like completely, and a lot of times what they have to overcome is their own worst selves, like I'm not saying that's not a thing. Like they're complex human beings with shades of themselves that aren't pretty.
Yeah.
But there are shades of themselves that are beautiful when they try to overcome this and find a moral center that they've lost and answer to that moral center. Like that's all there. Like I don't.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you see the same thing or?
I 100% agree with that sentiment. I find when people say that they're despicable, I'm like, maybe something's wrong with me. So I'm pretty quiet about it. I'm like, they're totally despicable. Like, where I understand Glocka, like he's a torturer.
Right.
So,
but then at the same time, and again, no spoilers. But he has to take care of another character, and he truly tries to nurture and do that and look out for. Like and his journey of where he's been and what's happened to him, that he's still functioning at all.
Yes.
There's
an incredibly high level of self-awareness that all of these characters have. And what's crazy is they're all different in so many ways. And this is one person creating these people, and their self-awareness through, like, it's all so very high. And I think they're critical of themselves, of the things that they know that they're doing that are despicable. And does that make their actions, redeemable? I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, I think, because we all fall in love with these characters, right? I think because they're the closest thing to human that we get.
I love Glotka with everything I got,
I love them.
And I love Jazal. I think Jazal has an amazing journey as well, and it's like so many people are not in on Jazal. It's like, dude, what a great arc. Are you kidding me? Like, how can you?
If you just read the first book, I could understand why you wouldn't like him. But once you get through that second book and you start seeing kind of what, I don't want to spoil too much. It's just like it kind of goes back to, in a different way, it goes back to losing something that you didn't even know you had or never had. You know? And a lot of that comes back to control. Right. And he's very compelling, I think, for that reason. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's so true, and that theme is played out a couple times through the trilogy, whereas Glotka's in charge of a place that's being sieged, and there's distinctive class lines drawn, and he's trying, and here's this character that everyone despises, and he's trying to diminish these lines drawn between socioeconomics and class and protect so many. It's like, okay, so here's the actual heroic stuff that these people are doing.
100%.
Yeah. You and I, Chance.
I agree. I agree. I think the especially when people talk about it broadly and spoiler free, I think that it's kind of, and maybe that's the actual experience that they're having when, in terms of it. That's why I was like, oh, maybe something's wrong with me. That I think these guys are heroes. Like, I don't know. I was like, oh yeah, totally despicable.
And I mean, I could show, and I took so much flack. Because I put out, like, I think it was for Valentine's Day. Like, it might not even been last year. It might have been the year before. And it's like some of my favorite couples for Valentine's Day. And I put out Logan Nine Fingers and Pharaoh. And it's like, people were like, are you kidding me? Like, this is not a couple. This is not, it's like, dude, how can this not be a couple? Like, I'm not saying they hit it over they knock it out of the park, but it's like they both want to be better than they are for the other. And they both start to redefine themselves through the other's eyes, looking outside of themselves, into themselves. Like, there's definite progression in character arc because the two of them came together.
Oh yeah.
As a couple.
Oh yeah. 100%. I think it's incredibly compelling and unique, and also incredibly realistic in a lot of ways. I think it just, in terms of, I don't want to, again, you don't want to get into spoilers, but it's how everything like turns out, and in general, I think it's done so well. And if you didn't have the inner monologue, you might not get that. You might not like.
Oh yeah, the inner monologue,
we get the
right?
Inner monologue.
Yes,
we get to know what they want. We get to know it, and it's so important, which goes back to what you were saying before about the. Yeah, I don't want to. I feel like saying any more is going to completely.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so let's go to a whole nother one before we run out of time. Let's talk about another one of your faves from the year, and that's Sun Eater, right?
Sun Eater. Oh my gosh, yes.
So, okay, are you caught up all the way to book 6? Or are you somewhere like me in the middle?
No, I'm doing Disquiet Gods when Jake from Nerd Level Rising, just saying, does Disquiet Gods.
He was in here just a little bit ago.
Yeah, I will be, I think, jumping in at the time that he reads it. I'm going to MarsCon on the 17th of January in Virginia Beach.
Where's MarsCon?
It's in VB, Virginia Beach, Norfolk. I have buddies in Virginia Beach, so it's like easy for me to take a flight down there. I go there often. Okay. And so he's the guest of honor for MarsCon. And so I booked a hotel. I'm going to be out there. Chris, there
Triple
he is.
B, man, Britain. I love
What's
the Pharaoh
Chris?
together too. Come on.
Yeah, it's a great romance. But yes, I'm going to see.
I feel so vindicated right now, Chance.
Yeah, you have to. You have to. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. MarsCon, Virginia Beach.
Yeah. MarsCon, Virginia Beach. Christopher Accio. He's one of those people I want to meet, and also obviously sharing an editor. I was like, okay, maybe let me just talk to him. Maybe that's like a conversation piece. Let me just have a conversation with Christopher Accio.
Dude,
I admire his work so much.
He is the most approachable, easy. You need to, all preconceptions you have of, oh my God, you're the author of Sun Eater, like just put him over there.
Okay, noted.
Because he is just the nicest, most open, amazing dude. Like,
fantastic.
If you get to him and start talking to him and tell him, hey, I hired DJ to be my editor. I really admire your work. You guys, it'll be like you've known each other for years. He is just like that. I've never seen him not be like that. He's truly an amazing guy.
Yeah, I love his work so much that Hadrian Marlowe's journey is, and I think because we start like it is a coming of age. I think you've said this in your reviews of the story in a lot of ways, and where I'm at, where you're about to start Kingdom of Death. I'm on book 4. So Kingdom of Death. Yeah. There are some things that in his initial pitch that over the next 2 books, we start to really see the payoff of that, I think, in a lot of ways. And the way that he did it and just keeping me invested and just holding on. Every book I'm reading, I'm just waiting for this. But he gives me something I didn't know I wanted in a lot of ways. Hadrian Marlowe's journey has been one of the most fascinating stories that I've been able to put myself into, and seeing his choices, his consequences, and wanting to do the right thing, maybe not knowing what the right thing is. I don't know. It's Christopher Accio has managed to create one of the most fascinating. I don't know what you think about it. I've read Dune. I love Dune. I think that every generation you have people that stand on the tops of the shoulder. You stand on the shoulders, of giants. This is our a modern day version of that to me. Yeah, this is just absolutely so fascinating.
I do think, and I've told Christopher before. Like I think this is, and I've told a couple other writers. So Janie, the same. I think this work is gonna like withstand time. Like I think people will be reading this for a good long while. Like there's a legacy to this. You know, and it's so hard to get that when you're the one behind the pen. You can't. It's like I just got to crank out book 7, man. Because we can't stop and think of that.
Yes, exactly.
Book 7's killing me. But I absolutely agree with that. I love the beginning. I love the beginning, and a lot of people, and I would agree. I think Empire of Silence is one of the weaker books that I've read in the series. But I do think that I love that beginning because he starts off as such an idealist.
Yes.
And he wants to flee this aristocratic beginnings because he doesn't believe it. He wants to go into academia and he wants to have answers of why. And he's just confounded on this journey and is smacked in the face by the way the empire really works. And little by little, this ideology starts to get stripped away and worn away, kind of like the sands on a beach at high tide, right? It's just inexorable. It's just not going to stop. It just keeps coming at him. But he stays true to it for so long, like even into book 2, like he's not giving up. Like he's the one person that doesn't give up on peace and this ideology. And I think it's that strong beginning for me that just makes it even more heartbreaking and even more able for me to pull for him, like down the road.
Yes, exactly. I think if you didn't have book 1, the ending of book 2 wouldn't have, I think, had as big of an impact. You know, I think that's one of those that's one of those series that I just kind of want to get into spoiler talk to eventually. There's so much that happens in each part of the story that if what preceded it didn't happen, it wouldn't have. It's perfectly crafted. It's bizarre. Yeah.
Don't you find it more? I find it like more of an emotional ride than Dune. And I love Dune. Dune sits at the top of my list, but it's like every book I read of this, it kind of encroaches more and more because for me, it's like, okay, it's got the world building, it's got thematics, the prose is gorgeous.
Yep.
And it's got the emotionality that sometimes for me Dune lacks. Like, I think Dune is an amazing book. It's on the very top of my list of sci-fi reads, but there is sometimes Paul or Duke Leto, they're stoics in the classic Greek sense. I mean, there's not an emotional core there that I can attach myself to.
Yeah. I think obviously he has the advantage of us having 6 books of access to these characters, to this character.
He hasn't passed away before he could get there.
Yes. And the deep dive into this one character's head for how many ever hundreds of thousands of words that we've gotten, and the journey from he's definitely at an advantage there, but obviously that speaks to his ability to work, his work ethic, and then his ability to craft. It's I think emotionally you're getting more from the character that you're invested in. And then also I think there's some side characters there that you're rooting for as well. You're rooting for their journey, even though that, they're so invested in Hadrian Marlowe. There are things that happen that, you're like, okay, this person has their own wants and needs and desires,
I do think that's true. And I think there are things that happen with the side characters, like, I mean, particularly, I'm thinking one thing, with Switch, there are heartbreaking moments, and it's because they have been there and they're 3-dimensional,
Yes.
So when things come down and happen, you feel a certain something for it.
100%.
I tell you, I'm all in on that series. So what can I expect from book 4 and 5? Like, I hear it was one massive book that was split up, and I hear it's going dark. So tell me, it's like, I mean, is that all I can know going in? I can't know.
You know the title, right?
Yeah. Kingdom of Death and Ashes of Man. That's all I need to know.
That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know. It's different in a lot of ways. I think Demon in White was very much a what's going on, Brian?
Brian, my brother from the north. I gotta say hey.
Yes. I think the Demon in White was very episodic. I think you had like very distinct parts throughout. You get to experience Hadrian's conflict with this. Here's conflict with this. I think have a different expectation.
It's like the greatest hits, right? It's almost like 3. I talked about this. It's like 3 freaking books in one. Like, it's
yes, absolutely. Kingdoms of Death more so. I think if you put them together like they were supposed to be, you're getting the same style. Split up the way they are with the amount of the word count and everything. It feels different. The pacing just feels a little different. Not bad by any means. I think Ashes of Man is my favorite book in the entire series, including Demon in White and Howling Dark. I bounce between Howling Dark and Ashes of Man in my head. Demon in White I loved. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I know that's an unpopular opinion, but Ashes of Man gave me something, and I can see why it wouldn't be people's favorites. It gave me something that I had been waiting for. I'm not going to say more than that. It gave me something that I've been waiting for, and that promise was fulfilled. that's all.
Okay. Have you done the novellas between two?
Yes.
Okay.
I think I have one short story before Disquiet Gods. I stopped reading it because to me it was a spoiler, and then I found out, Jake told me his conversation with Chris. He was like, "Hey, just read this, and it's fine. It's not a spoiler apparently." So I'm gonna go back and read that one short story, and then I'm gonna get into Disquiet Gods.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm excited. I think January I'll be able to get to.
You got a big January.
I got a big January. What's yours looking like? Like, what do you have? What are you looking forward to in 2025? I know we've been an hour. I'm just going to keep you a little bit longer because I'm having fun, man. If that's cool with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm grateful. Okay. Yeah.
So what's on tap for 2025? Are we going to see? I mean, I'm going to try and price something out. Is your work coming out to us in 2025? Is that going to happen?
Yes. So the goal right now with everything I'm working through, I'm going to make sure I'm going to actually ask. I had a copy editor in mind, and then it just turned out that the timeline didn't exactly line up. So I'm going to see if Dave has a copy editor I can reach out to. Everything should be lining up for the month of July for the first release.
So summer.
Summer of 2025. Yeah, exactly. July is the goal. July 20th specifically is the goal. I've announced that that's what it is, but you say things and maybe it doesn't happen, whatever. I actually firmly believe that it will happen because I've met and exceeded deadlines up to this point. And so the 20th specifically is an important day for me because that's the day my father passed away. It'll be 14 year. Sorry, hold on. I really messed that up. 2013. It'll be 12 years.
Wow. Okay.
In 2025. So and that's 2 days after my birthday, and that's an important day for me.
This is a big time. Very important.
Yeah, and so the creating life in that way for me, in a story is important, and so I'm trying to meet that goal. Exactly. January 1st, so I actually started. No tiers or anything for Patreon, but I actually started a Patreon where I'm going to post short stories between now and July. I have one short story already done. It's getting copy edited and proofread. It should be good by January 5th to January 10th in that range. The first, I have my cover reveal going on with official cover reveal going on with a nonfiction, like Dear Reader excerpt that I'm putting in my first book. That's like 4 to 5 pages. People can kind of get an idea of my writing through that and the short story that's coming out. And then sample chapters, e-arcs, stuff like that will be going on between now and July. Yeah.
So how do you feel? Like, what's it like? Like, dude, 2025, like you said, this is a very important day. This is a day of loss, which is a theme that you brought up several times in your own personal journey and in your work. Yeah. In 2025, on this day, you're bringing out something that you created, that is life at that time, to answer the sense of loss.
Exactly.
And in your own way, overcoming loss, that other theme that you talked about. What's it feel like? Are you scared to death about what people are thinking? Does it not matter to you? It just is just a hurdle you want to get over. Like, where are you at, man?
Yeah, I don't.
Is it just surreal and you can't even say?
No. I think it's one of those things. It's a story. It's weird. It doesn't even feel like I've obviously been putting the work in and doing it and writing it, and it's been this turnaround for this particular book because of just figuring out process has been as long as it has, because I started this in 2022. I want to say April 2022. Or maybe when did I have my surgery? Might have been 23 that I started writing the first book. Yeah, it was 23. And when I started working on it, it was telling the story that I wanted to read, telling the story that I wanted to
That's
experience.
What they say to do. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I've always been the person where and this is before I even started writing, I've always been the person where I have something that has affected me. And like what you do, what everybody does on BookTube. Like when you have a story you experience, you want people to experience that story as well. You got to read this. You got to watch this. You got to, because you want to have that conversation.
Right.
This is a circumstance where I'm confident in the story and the narrative through line. I'm confident in the characters. I'm confident in their journey, especially after having drafted book 2, that I just want to share it with people so I can have a conversation about it. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you mean.
So with your work, that's one of those other things. Like, I cannot wait for people to be talking about it and getting in conversation about it. It's going to be very, very fun to see.
I mean, I know, like when I wanted to jump on and have a channel, right? It's like, it's that weird thing where it's like, I want to have a voice, and it's like these things that affect you and a reader's journey here. And I completely agree with you, my friend. I find Chance's passion and drive for telling his story and getting it into the world to be incredibly inspiring. And I absolutely echo that. But it's like when a story hits you right here in a way that it's like, man, I see things differently. For like, this speaks to me of my own past. It speaks to me in my possible future. It speaks to me of the broader world I live in. Not only do you want to talk about it, but you want to talk about it through your lens of what you've seen and how it impacts you. And share how it impacts other people. And in that sharing is the magic, right? That's what it's all about. Yeah. So to make that next leap, and it's something that you created that you can possibly do that with.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough to come up with something more magical for you, man, especially right around that time as you described it, right? Like,
yes, absolutely. Another thing for me was growing up is Star Wars. And my dad, like, that was my first introduction into, I think, sci-fi fantasy was the old, like, you know, the 1970s Star Wars.
77, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he introduced me to the VHS tapes. I was sitting down in front of the TV, like, you know, like a little, I was probably 6 or, you know, whatever I was. And watching that movie and his passion for it. And then obviously, you know, I attached myself to that story and the world that it created, the universe that it created. Yeah. And the people that were able to tell stories within that universe, all the authors that were able to create stories, whether it be Old Republic, Legends, whatever, novelizations of the movies, whatever it was. That is something that is so appealing to me. Creating a world where other people can tell stories within it. You know what I mean? That is something to me that has been incredibly appealing since I was a kid. That's what I've wanted to create with the world that I created. So we'll see. But you know, that's one of the big goals is people being not necessarily inspired enough, but being impacted enough to be like, okay, I think I have some stories I want to tell. You know what I mean? And let me let me create a random character here and just write them knowing this is the backdrop, this is the canvas, and I can create within that canvas. That's something that is so appealing to me. And
do you have
that'd be cool.
Do you have any trepidation about it? Like, oh, how's this going to go over? Or I've opened myself up quite a bit and put quite a bit of, like you were talking about that pain at these moments, you put that on paper. Like, is there a little bit of, like, there's got to be some thoughts, right? Like,
yeah, you're saying in terms of sharing my, like, the character that I created.
Sure. Yeah.
I would say yes and no. I think the first 40 pages, people might think there's something wrong with me. But you know, but there's a reason for everything. That's all I'll say. For everything. And you know, I make sure to nothing is without purpose. And again, everything's very intentional. So that part I'm a little, you know, oh no, or, you know, what are they going to think when they get there? I know. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. A story. It's to me, it's the authentic aspect. It's the truth of these characters' lives. It's what they experienced. And I in terms of spice, you know, that's something that I close the door on. You know, I've always been. I'm like, this is their private life. I don't really want to get too much in on that. Let's shut the door. You know, like we can, you know, insinuate what's going on, but we're not gonna get in detail on that. You know, that's their life. That's their private life. I don't want to deal with that. And then there was a character that I rolled a D20 for to see if they live or die. I won't say what happened.
You actually rolled a D20.
I went for it. Yeah, I was I could tell you the true story.
Well, don't give too much away, man, because I don't want to.
I'm not gonna say. I won't spoil anything. I'll say I was like my first experience. I was in California. You could have mushrooms at the time, you know, and I was just sitting down writing, having a good time. I don't do this every time, by the way. It was one experience. I have not. The only thing I've endeavored in is alcohol here and there, and that's it. But that was one experience. Rolled the D20 just to see. I was like, oh, you know, let's see what happens. And I tried it out because I was reluctant to do it. I really, you know, I was in general. And so what happens, and that's that. It was a fun experience. I'll say that.
Oh man, that's really a discovery writer, man. You're
that was the only scene I've ever written in that state.
I'm gonna say, like, Chance is not just your name, man. You're leaving it all up. I mean, I would not be able to do that. This character, let's just see, D20, live or die. No.
Yeah, well, once I learned in Dungeons and Dragons, the dice tell the story. I was like, all right, I'm gonna let the dice tell the story today and see what happens. You know.
Well, NA, who's done the first 40 pages, still wants to keep.
Thank you, NA. He didn't say something wrong with you. I was like, okay, we're good.
All right, I've got the first 40 pages.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, I meant to read it before we got together. I just couldn't. With the holidays and everything, I couldn't do it.
Yeah, totally.
I'm gonna be completely brutally honest with you, man.
Yeah.
I am not doing it before this comes out.
Totally. Yeah.
I want the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, after talking to you tonight, I don't want a bite-sized trial. I want the whole enchilada, man. And I'm gonna wait until I have the whole book to do it.
It will be in your hands.
I'm not even gonna. I really planned on doing it. I'm not even gonna do it.
Oh, perfect. Is that D20
moment in this book?
It's in the book. Yeah, it's in the first book. Yeah. So yeah, it is in the first book. Yeah. I mean, you might not know. You might not know.
You're
what
gonna have to
happened
tell after I read the book.
after the fact.
You're
Yeah,
gonna have to tell me.
I'll tell
All
you what
right.
it was. Yeah.
See, I didn't
But
know
it
this.
evolved.
I didn't know
But yeah.
this either, Kiri. There's a similar story with Malazan of somebody being decided with a dice roll. Crazy. And
Oh,
it's
I didn't
crazy.
even know that. Wow. I did know that it was like him and I actually don't know his real name. I think it's Cam, but Steven Erickson and Ian Siasamont playing their game together. I knew that they played a Dungeons and Dragons variation, tabletop RPG that they discovered all these characters through in this world, and it's absolutely fascinating. And I had been reading for a little bit, and I'd been writing for a little bit. I found that out, and that's where I was like, okay, I have to pick up the last. Like, I have to. I can't not pick this story up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm doing Gardens of the Moon in February. I cannot wait to see how this hits, man, because I've heard there's such a sliding scale for people that have read Malazan between I can't tell what's going on to this is transcendent.
Yeah, I'm going to say two condescending pieces of information that you can take with and throw away, or take with and keep, whatever. I would say these are two things that don't align. There's a video from Kronk, the book guy.
Oh yeah, I love Kronk.
In the world. Yeah, that video helped me a lot as like a primer going into it, just in general, just kind of getting an idea. But you don't even necessarily need that. And my other piece of information that I don't want to call it advice, because everybody's got it, and it all stinks. I would say delete expectations. Just go into it however, because there's so many expectations out there that are given and thrown your way, that I don't want it to affect your experience with the story. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. I don't think anyone's going to hold it against you. You're John from Talking Story. You define what the rules are. All right.
Well, I think that's I think that's how you should go into any story, right? You should be open, and it's like how this hits me is how it hits me. Like and it should be entirely different than how it hits others.
Yes.
At least in some way, shape, or form, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So expectations, you got to, whatever. If hopefully you're not holding on to any, but if you got them, it's the whole idea of it being challenging and difficult. Maybe that's a good expectation to go with, because actually the difficult part is sometimes maybe navigating whose head you're in, but you don't necessarily need to know whose eyes you're seeing through all of the time, if that makes sense. You just need to know what they're seeing.
Yeah.
That's what I thought when I was reading it,
Yeah. Okay. All right. Check my that's really great advice, because I found when I was reading Assassin's Quest, we started off talking about Hob, right? And I found it's like, this kind of does drag right here a little bit. And it's like, that's the stuff I've heard.
Yep.
And that's me bringing my expectations to the story, as opposed to just being open and let her tell me the story she has to tell me. And as soon as I did that, it opened up and changed so many things. Like, of course, this part of the journey is slow. I remember this part of the journey. I remember being that age, going out into the world, and the world not being the way I thought it should be, and it being arduous and hard to figure it out and get it wired. And it was like beating your head against a wall sometimes. And I remember all those things about my youth, and then when I started seeing about it that way, it's like, what a brilliant piece of work that she's taking the time to let this pace flow at the pace of life lived, as opposed to what I would expect from an epic fantasy, bing, bang, boom, action, give me some action. Right.
Yeah.
But I had
100%.
to check. I did the same thing. I was absolutely as guilty of that.
Yeah, I had the same experience, actually. And I did also have to check myself, because I actually felt that like all three books in the Farseer trilogy are different lengths. I think it's like 400, 600, 800 or something like that, in that range. And the pacing for me for each book felt the exact same, in like a very, like, it was all exactly paced the same exact way. I think the difference is we get an experience in a later book. I won't say whether it's 2 or 3, where I think we probably does this in each book, because I think she does in each book. Fitz makes a choice, goes down a path, and maybe it does or doesn't work out. And I think it's a very human, real experience. It doesn't work out, and then it's, I got to turn around, I got to go back. You know what I mean? And that experience of, oh, okay, that's what I have to do now, and now I'm navigating it from here and seeing where I go. Yeah, I found that the parts where I was thinking, oh yeah, I was just, literally it's a longer book, but the pacing was, to me, it felt very similar. At least that was my experience. But yeah,
I think that's completely expectations, because I had no problem with the pace books 1 and 2, and I hit book 3, and Tom Orange brings up, and this is a great example, is the slog and wheel of time. We hear about that so many times that when we hit that, whether we have that experience or not, or that thought or not, we might have that experience. So you are wise beyond your years, my friend, to tell me to go in with no expectations on Gardens of the Moon.
Yeah. If that little voice pops up in your head of everybody saying, it's super, like, I just throw it out, experience it. You're obviously equipped with the tools to do that. I'm not worried. I'm just excited I'm excited to hear, whether you like it or not, I'm excited to hear your thoughts on it. You know what I mean? I think most people are. Obviously, you're going to have people who are, oh, if you didn't like this, then that's crazy. And I mean, that's just human nature, Yeah. Yeah. But like you said, everybody experiences something differently. I will vehemently defend things that I love.
Yeah. Sure.
I draw the line at putting somebody else down for feeling a different way. I don't think that that's appropriate, but people do, that's just the way the world works. Sometimes people do that. I think I'm totally, that's one of my biggest anticipations of the year of 2025. You're asking what's going on for 2025 is your Malazan experience. And then all of those wars of
Dude,
light.
You need to get out more. You're a young guy, man. You're a young guy. You're a young guy with a first book coming out. That can't be one of your top things you're looking for.
top of the list.
Chance. Seriously, we need to talk off screen. I need to help you out.
My number one. That's my number one. Forget 20. Yeah, everything else. I will be trying to go to, I think it's in Seattle this year, Worldcon, right? Is that going to be?
I've thought about going to Worldcon too. Yeah.
To me, I'm like, it's in the States. I'll go. I'm thinking.
Oh, it's going to be amazing. Are you going to think about slinging your book, taking your book?
We'll see. The story you hear of people packing suitcases full of books and setting up a table. Yeah, I mean, it's in the realm of possibility. I also may want to go and just hang out and have a good time. I'll see. That we're going to see as the year goes on. I'll make that decision at a later date. But I definitely do want to go, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get that. So, okay. Back to the last question that I asked before we went on a tangent. Yeah. So, reads for you coming in 2025. What are you most excited about? What's on tap?
I am very excited. 2025, I am absolutely finishing Malazan. I think I started it just about a year ago, or some like around October, November of last year.
Library on Legs is going to see you at Worldcon.
Oh, there we go. Perfect. Yeah. I'm looking forward to just seeing and meeting people and in the space and whatever authors that I love, Yeah. But so Malazan is the number one in terms of excitement of books that I'm going to series that I'm going to finish. And then of course, Sun Eater, if Shadows Upon Time comes out. And then starting Wars of Light and Shadow. That is something that I'm really looking forward to.
So you're going to do, you're doing Hell's Chasm first, right?
I'm doing, yes. Hell's Chasm is first. That'll be next month. I'll probably try and squeeze Gallant when I'm around the 10th book of Malazan. That same month, I might put it in there just so I don't have any lag going into another big series. But I just couldn't. I don't think I could have started Malazan side by side with.
I totally get it, man. People, I'm crazy. I mean, people have told me, and I can't disagree with them.
No, and Tom Orange did it too. I think he had started both of them at the same time, and he's enjoying both of them. I knowing myself, I have read. I think I did books 1 and 2 of Malazan pretty close together, back to back, and then after you watched did you? I mean, you read the Red Wedding.
Yes, I have.
Maybe that's not. Is that a spoiler? I don't know if it's saying that as a spoiler anymore.
Just saying Red Wedding. We can go that far.
Right.
That's all we'll say. Yeah. I've read Red Wedding. That's enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
I watched the show, which I know is not the same. And I needed like a good 3 weeks, 4 weeks of just like not being near it. I was like, that's how I felt at the end of Dead House Gates. I just was like, I needed time to just like be away from it and process my emotions,
Well, that's good. I like that.
Yeah. And Malazan gave me that. And which is pretty crazy to think about. And then, so I actually have a feeling that War of Light and Shadow is going to give me the same feeling.
I can tell you after having Triple B is gonna hang out with you there.
Oh yeah. I think Jake, we've talked about it. Jake and I are also going to the ICFA or ICFA in March.
Cinna is saying Wars of Light and Shadow is gorgeous. I can say from reading the Gallant, and that's as far as I've got in, is the starter novella, is the prequel novella. It's like, I kind of, and you were talking about preconceived notions again, right? I've read Hell's Chasm. I've had, and this is one of the craziest things about BookTube, right? Like, how crazy is this? I've actually had conversations with Janny Words, like, that's just nuts so in and of itself, right?
Yeah, she's so sweet. She's really
she's just, they're just humans on this plane that glow. Yes. She's just special to me, and it's just amazing. I've had the privilege of spending time and talking with her. So I've actually talked with her, and then I go into the Gallant having like kind of an idea, because Jacob read it first, kind of gave me an idea. I've talked to Janny, kind of had, and I start this, and I'm on the plane, and I'm got my iPad, and I'm gonna start reading this, and I still was not prepared. Like it still struck me in a way that was just like, that's crazy.
I'm looking forward to you and Jacob both. I mean, the experience you guys had, and then also Jake, I think, talked about it. I think Alex Iskandari, he talked about it. There's, and I don't know if Chris read it. I can't remember. I'm blanking on that. But I know the Gallant is it's a romance, right?
Yes, it is a romance. Okay. And it takes place on several planes of existence, and it starts out with a bit of court intrigue, and it's character introduction, and it's world building. Perfect. And it's all in like 100 or 120 pages.
That's so crazy to me. I love a good romance. You know what I mean? I'm actually really looking forward. am really looking forward to that. That's why I'm going to tie it in with my last Malazan read, because I feel like it's going to be emotional, even in those 120 pages. And I think it'll be perfect going into the series.
Yeah. Only thing that first more light has reading it. And it's like, yes, it's a romance in that, but it's like you were talking about earlier. It's got these shades and textures and colors of life where there is no bliss and joy of romance without some tragedy. And it has all that wrapped up in 100. I'm telling you, dude, and just language it's just language that you're reading it going, like that's not that's not.
Like, how did a brain put this together?
Seriously. I think you'll really enjoy it when you get there. I hope you do. And
I'm sure I will.
As an artist on a journey, I think you'll find it inspirational.
Okay, love that.
In the same way we've talked about some of these other works that you found inspirational on your personal journey and stuff. So Jake, Jake, Chance, I was looking over here to see if Jake showed up again. But he didn't. I'd say it was Alex. But hey, so I hope your journey keeps going, and I hope you keep growing here. I can't believe you hit 1,000 already.
Me either. Yeah, very grateful.
And it's amazing. I think that just shows people are so interested, man. There's people so interested in chat on this work that you got coming out, and I'm one of them. I can't wait for it. Yeah,
I'm really looking. I think I speak for everybody who's going to watch this, how excited we are to read. You guys all, I still don't quite understand. I maybe when I read it, I'll understand the collaboration aspect of it. I cannot wait to
hopefully not.
Well, yes. Hopefully not, but I don't know. It's so cool to me that you guys.
If we worked it out right, no one should know what came from who. It should Will you be able to? Is that something offline with people that you'll be able to discuss? Or we should play a game like people should have just lines as like, okay, who did this one?
That'd be really fun.
That could be fun, and hopefully no one could guess because if we did it right. So hopefully those questions aren't answered. But so tell me real quick, I got one more question for you, and I'll see if it's the same. We're so much alike in so many ways. So starting BookTube, like what has been the one thing that struck you about BookTube that just sticks out?
Gosh. How welcoming and how like kind really everybody is, and everybody just, again, I think what everybody has in common in this space is the aspect of sharing story,
Yeah.
and things that impacted us in one way or another. And that's what I love. I love people being able to express their passion for something and,
Yeah.
and want to share it enough to comment or make a video about it.
Sure.
And in general, the people who contribute to the space, whether it's in a comment or just by watching and being affected in one way or another, that to me is I think the thing that sticks out to me the most.
Yeah, it's the same for me, man. It's the people.
Yeah.
It's Jake and you and Alex and like all the people I was looking over here for, Chris and
Yeah.
I mean Cinna. I mean, I could just Zach. I could just I could just name people on and on and on. That it's like I have kind of sometimes an unhinged attachment. Like I feel it's like they are my people. They are my family. They are my people.
Yeah.
Like I if I'm having a tough day, sometimes thinking about some of them or reaching out to some of them will help me, and it's been so truly life-changing in that way,
Yes.
like
Yes.
absolutely just stunningly life-changing in that way. And I just hope as you continue on and you keep growing and your channel explodes and your book explodes, and I can't wait to read it. I think I hope for you, my sincere hope for you is at the base that never goes away. It's the people sharing story, and the community that we found here. That's just always constant for you, because that's the best thing I could hope for or wish for anyone.
100%. I'll get a message from Slay because the Discord that you guys have for the Patreon, and it really he's like, there's so many people, and not just Slay, but Slay's somebody that's stands out, and comments like that, just people just wanting to share things with you, and it is beautiful. It is really a fun. I don't have people that I really in my life that I'm able to talk to books about all the time.
Same, absolutely the same.
And so whenever you get that experience, like I do, and then like of course my girlfriend here and there, and then there are some people, but for the most part, it's here in this communication, this conversation it's worth its weight in gold.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to articulate it.
Is this the same girlfriend that you read some of First Law to?
Yes.
So she passed. Oh, she passed the test, then, man.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
She's a keeper, Chance. She's a keeper.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Man, thank you, Chance. Thanks so much for your time. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for the channel you built. Thanks for the work that you are about to share with all of us on such an important day for you, man. I can't tell you how much closer that makes me feel to share your experience in that way. It's very special to me. I always say, you probably heard me say on the channel, like the amazing thing about this art form is you can kind of reach through those words and pages and touch the artist and somewhat understand a little bit about their inner workings and themselves because of what they've shared. And just to know you shared it on that time, that day, man, it really makes it special for all of us. And just thanks for hanging out with us. Everyone in the chat, man, thank you so much for hanging out. You guys are always just some of the most fun when we get together and do these Talking with Tubers, and I'm just so glad everyone showed up. Everybody that catches us in replay that wasn't here, hit us up in comments. Let us know where you're from and everything, and we will answer comments right away and get back with you. And I hope everybody enjoyed this chat as much as I did, man. I really just went on way longer than I planned on. I hope your girlfriend didn't mind too much, because I was just having a blast.
Yeah, it's fine. No, I cannot express my gratitude for you bringing people into the space, for the conversation, the openness that you've been able to. I'm at a loss for words here, but what you've been able to create is beyond just the videos that you and Jacob put together. It's the community, and it's also emboldened the community above you, like in terms of like the people that came before you. I think everybody has benefited from you and Jacob in this space and in your ability to orate. And I'm incredibly grateful that you brought me on to speak before the end of the year. Incredibly grateful.
Well, I don't know about all that, man, but you're a very kind dude, man. I really appreciate that. Thanks everybody. That's very touching, Chance. I really appreciate it. I mean, I mean it. the whole reason we're here, the whole reason we do this is was to have some people to talk with and reach out, and it's like I say, it's been life-changing, and you're very special. You're a very special man, and I can't wait to read your work, my friend.
No, I can't wait to read yours.
It goes back and forth. Everybody, thank you so much. We're going to let you get to bed. It's the holidays. You need to get well and rested and ready to party come, what is it, Tuesday night? This is how old I am. I half-ass you.
Tuesday night. I'm going to be in bed at 9 p.m., but yeah.
No,
Tuesday
come on.
Night. No, I'm in bed. I'm asleep. No.
I'm not believing it. Thanks, everybody, man. Thanks for joining us. We're going to catch you next time on the Lex Knives. And thanks so much, Chance.
Thank you.
I hope everyone had a great time.
Yeah.